So this is Zoe. I thought I would make her the star of the video today since I have talked about her in the past. And right now she looks very calm, but looks can be deceiving and she does have the tendency to be very destructive and disobedient. And so I actually met with a trainer yesterday to discuss some of these tendencies and how to resolve them. And it was a very educational and enlightening session, which taught me a lot just about psychology in general. And basically, what she said is that, well, every dog has a distinct personality, and some dogs are more hyper than others. At the same time, no dog is willfully destructive or disobedient, and dogs are not trying to be manipulative. They are not purposely trying to make your life miserable, even though sometimes it may seem like that. That really dogs, when they act that way, it's just because they're bored. And if you've ever dealt with children or teenagers, and especially if you've ever been a teacher, as I have, I'm sure you've experienced this, where if they're just kind of left to their own devices, that's when trouble generally starts to occur, especially in any sort of like unstructured environment, like recess, for instance. Like when I was a kid, I remember recess being the time when lots of trouble generally happened. And so the point was that dogs, they need something to do. They need something to be engaged. And not just walks, which that was the kind of the first thing that comes to mind for most people, but she also talked about how dogs need mental stimulation. And so this is one of the, you can't really tell right now, this is one of the mental activities that she recommended. And so basically it's just wrapping up the dog treats in a towel and making it a bit of a challenge for the dog to find the treats. But I was thinking about like with the human mind, and sometimes it can feel like our mind is deliberately trying to sabotage us, or again, just trying to make our lives miserable. But really, that's not the case. And just like with dogs or with children, it's usually just because our minds are bored. And so it's usually kind of in moments like maybe we're doing chores or maybe we're trying to fall asleep, but we can't fall asleep. And at least for me, that's when my mind tends to go in not so helpful directions, like reminding me of all the things that I haven't achieved yet, or telling me that I don't have what I want, or I'm not where I want to be, and really just being a nuisance. And so just like with dogs and with children, it's really just about keeping our minds engaged. And so I think this is where robotic affirmations can be very effective. And also just another thing is just being very engaged in whatever it is that you're doing. And so even if it's something that seems like just a very menial task that you do all the time, like washing the dishes, treating it as if it's the most interesting thing in the world, which can actually be like a very fun challenge. Or when I go on my walks, I like to just like observe everything very closely, like look at the clouds. And the other day, actually, I was walking on the beach and I saw this kite, and it was super cool. It was like a kite. It's hard to explain exactly, but it was like a kite, and it was made up of multiple kites. And so it was the string, and then there were like multiple like clownfish and jellyfish, and it was just fascinating. But if I was just kind of like going about my day, kind of lost in my head, I might just think, oh, well, it's just a kite. But it's seeing the world around you and seeing everything that you're engaged in and setting in that intention and making it the most fascinating thing in the world. And I also like to just see the presence of God around me and see it in everything. And sometimes I'll even say to myself, this is from A Course in Miracles, God goes with me wherever I go, and just really feel that divine presence like merging with me. And so back to the game. And so another thing that I want to point out is this whole idea of gamification. And so as much as dogs like treats, like if we just kept giving the dog treats over and over again, eventually it would get boring after a while. And so that's the whole idea of making it a game for the dogs. And in the same way, sometimes we think that if we just got what we wanted all the time, like if we just snapped our fingers and then suddenly a big bag of money would fall from the sky, as cool as that would be, like if that just happened like every single time, it would get boring after a while if we were really honest with ourselves. And so it's all about just kind of making everything a game. And even in what we perceive to be our struggles or obstacles or challenges, seeing that as part of the game too. And seeing how there is a reward at the end of this challenge. And yeah, maybe the reward might not be immediately a bag of money, but it might even just be the satisfaction. So for instance, for me, it's like tech. Like tech is something that I really struggle with. And so for me, it's just the satisfaction of knowing that I've overcome something that I find very challenging. And sometimes I don't overcome it. Sometimes, like for instance, the other day I was working on my website and it was just getting worse and worse, and then it was spewing out a whole bunch of gobbledygook on my page, and I panicked. And so then thankfully I discovered there was a way to restore the backup, and which I was very grateful for, but as a result it was like it completely undid all my progress. But then it was like, well, at least I have optimization data. And at least I even attempted to do it in the first place. And so that itself can be kind of a reward. Now it looks like she's dreaming right now. You can see her paws and her ears twitching. And maybe she's dreaming about chasing a squirrel. Who knows? Or maybe it's something much more complex than that. I think dogs are really a lot more complex than we give them credit for. And so that's what I want to leave you with today, is that our minds, just like the dogs and the children, they're never deliberately trying to sabotage us or make our lives difficult, that it just needs to be engaged. It just needs to be stimulated. And if you can start to make a game out of everything and start to to get into the flow state and to make everything, no matter what you're doing, to try and make it the most fascinating thing, try and turn it into the most fascinating thing in the world, I think you'll find your life, your experience of life so much more enjoyable. And so with that, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.